Senator Seward.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I'd seek to make some third reading remarks on this bill and to point out that although the Labor Party may try and put across the image that this bill's and these measures, or this bill containing these measures, are the more benign elements of the dreadful budget cuts, they are not benign and they will have an impact on people with disability, on students, on families and single-parent families. And it is disingenuous for the comments that were being made by people in this chamber as a contribution to this debate to act as if these measures are not going to negatively impact on Australians. People on disability support pension are having their portability of their pension reduced from 6 weeks to 4 weeks. Now that's going to have a significant impact on people with disabilities. It only raises $5 million. So it's not about money here. This is about demonising and punishing people with disabilities. It's also the measures that force people under the age of 35 with disabilities to be reassessed and apply penalties, the ultimate sanction of which is to drop them off. Some of them will be dropped onto New Start, but others, if they miss a compliance requirement, may be dropped off income support altogether. And this is in the face of reports that are showing growing youth unemployment. NAPSAM report just released yesterday and reported on in the media today show just how hard it is for younger Australians to find work in a tightening employment environment. So these are young people with disabilities who face many barriers to work, whose future is being threatened by this reassessment process against new eligibility criteria that will be dropped onto New Start, living with a disability on reduced income, but also with more compliance requirements to find work in an area where it's already hard to find work for people who don't have the same barriers as people with disabilities are already facing. And in estimates spillover last week, we heard about what some of those barriers to employment are. Those barriers include people without the necessary skills, they don't have job-seeking skills, they've got other barriers such as transport, accommodation. All these things particularly apply to people with disabilities, such as access to transport, such as formal skills, because often people with disabilities have had trouble accessing the necessary training, education and support. So this bill does put in place measures that significantly impact on people with disabilities. It also impacts on students with the changes to the relocation allowance, and single parents are being hit yet again around the issues to do with freezing of the indexation on assets. So this bill will significantly hurt Australians. None of those measures from the budget that cut access to income support are benign. They are cruel. They demonise people, particularly people with disabilities, particularly single-parent families who have been hit repeatedly with these measures. So the ALP, to be clear, has combined with the government to pass measures that will cut funding to families, students and people with disabilities and single-parent families. So I don't want any Australians to think that these measures are somehow benign, because they are not, and they are the prelude to the other budget cuts that this government wants to make in the face of growing inequality, growing employment, a tightening employment market that will make it even harder for young people, people with disabilities, single-parent families and families to struggle to survive in the current climate. That's what these measures do.